You are blue chip stock. If you think of yourself as a blue chip stock, how can they downgrade you? You can't downgrade me. I'm a big black Nike swoosh. That's what I am. I have the same gift that God gave me 62 years ago, that I turned professionally 35 years ago. I have the same gift. They can never take my gift. You can take this show and take that show, and you can think what you done is cool. All you did was replant me. I'm a motivational speaker, so you have to excuse me when I start getting on tangents like this. So check this out. Buried and planted appears to be the same thing, but it ain't. See, when something's buried, when you bury something, you say goodbye to it. When something is planted, you expect to see it again. I'm planted. You're planted. All you got to do is live in the life of expectation, and God will give you what you expect. If you expect nothing good to happen, nothing good is going to happen. But the God I serve, his promise is that he delivers if you believe. I just happen to believe. So what does it matter to me what they do?
I think it's really critical that you understand that everybody wants to grow their business, and we all go through different phases, right? Just like human beings go through phases. You know, you give birth to your business and you're an infant, and an infant is a run for survival, and cash flow problems are a natural process in most cases, and you're running. Hopefully you get to a teenager where now cash flow is not a problem, you're growing like crazy, and then you have a new problem. You don't have systems in place. And maybe you get to young adult where you have to decide what you're not going to do. Eventually, hopefully get to prime where you're growing your business revenues and you're growing your profits and you got a professional organization, you're not doing it. Because as long as you're doing it, really you don't have a business. What you have is you're self-employed. There's nothing wrong with being self-employed. But whenever you meet someone who's in business is stressed, they're always a business operator. And my focus is to become a business owner. How do you do that? You realize that the chokehold in the growth of your business is always the leader. And it's your skills and it's your psychology. And I found it's 80% psychology and 20% skills. You gotta have the marketing skills. You gotta be able to lead. You gotta be able to recruit. You gotta do all those things. But really, most importantly, you gotta get it through what I call the threshold of control. When you realize that your problem is not a lack of resources. It's not a lack of money or technology or contacts. It's not. It's your psychology. Because the ultimate resource is resourcefulness. And human emotion, that's what starts wars, that's what makes a business begin, that's how you have children, that's how we end wars, it's all emotion. And so what I really learned to do is how to manage my emotions. So, once you solve that one, the next one shows up. I started a franchise, and a couple franchisees were really upset when one of the people representing on my side said they didn't make things clear to them, and it's all bullshit, but it cost me $5 million in 4 years. I thought the first one was like a $50,000 challenge. Now I got a $5 million challenge. And I took all the money I'd saved in my entire career to pay that off, and I was starting over again. And then I grew from that. And then I finally got, I had a partner in business, and long story short, we had a business that was losing $1 million a day, and he turned it around and making $1.8 billion in EBITDA. He offered me his partner, and I signed a document saying we're all joint and several. There was $40 million in debt. I figured I had $10 million of the debt to have $1.8 billion in infrastructure. And it turned out my partners, two of them were broke. They weren't billionaires. They had lost their money. And the other one was the son of a billionaire, and his dad had given him nothing, had $5 million to his name. So I was on the hook shortly after for $120 million when they didn't have $120 million. I figured out how to deal with that. By doing that, I eventually took my companies to this year will surpass $6 billion in 33 companies because I made it through the threshold of control. So I want you to know, when you see these big numbers by any entrepreneur, they all started with blocking and tackling, and they all started with how do I get both the skill and, more importantly, the psychology. You can get the skill if you can get that part of you that just doesn't die, the part of you that finds the way to add more value than anybody else so you can keep growing.
When you say, I don't have any idea whatsoever of what I'm going to do to pull this out. Been in situations like that where I had deadlines I had to meet. I didn't meet those deadlines, and I lost a car. Lost a home, lights were cut off, telephone was cut off. All of those things are going to happen to you at different points in life. Now, the question is, what does it really mean? It really doesn't mean anything. It's not important at all. It's just a temporary inconvenience because all of those things can be corrected. And it's a part of the process that we all go through. Now, the challenge is, in the midst of all of these things, is one, to stay focused on your goal, and two, to keep your expectations of making it happen and keeping your energy positive and relentlessly looking for ways in order to pull it out. And I guarantee you that there will be some intervention. What causes it? I don't know. There are things that we don't know or understand, but we do know that if we do certain things, that things begin to happen that's in our favor, that shows that the universe is on our side. Everything that we're seeking, I believe that if we begin to align our thoughts with action and be relentless, don't try 2 or 3 things or 15 or 20 things, but 100 things, 500 things if necessary, 10,000 things as Edison did if necessary, until we find a way out. Many of us, we eliminate many possibilities for ourselves because we really don't do all we can do. I think A.L. Williams was right when he said, all we can do is all we can do, and all we can do is enough. And I think, honestly speaking, even judging from myself, I think that my commitment is stronger than most people. But if I had to literally measure my commitment in terms of what I put forth in my dream, I would say that I might have given about 18 to 20% of what I'm really capable of. As high in consciousness as I believe that I am, comparatively speaking, where I used to be, I'm still nowhere near reaching 50% of the commitment that I can make to accelerate the growth and the development of my dream and the manifestation of the things that I know within myself that I'm capable of producing. So our biggest challenge is beginning to look at within ourselves to remove those energy blocks, because if we're not producing the income that we want, let us not look outside of ourselves, but look within ourselves to find out, how am I blocking me? Am I really giving it all that I have? Am I really being as creative as I can be? Am I really unstoppable? Am I as relentless as I can be? Am I exhausting every means possible? Am I turning up every rock to find what it is that I'm looking for? That what resides between our ears, when we're thinking about how do I come up with $500, $1,200, or $2,000, is the same gray matter that resides between the ears of a Ross Perot or Donald Trump when his bankers say, you've got 30. How is it that one man or woman can do it and do 1,000,000 times more than these other people, and the other ones don't? It has to be consciousness. It has to be, and when we talk about consciousness, we're talking about a collection of our thoughts, our feelings, and our emotions and experiences used as an active force to produce in our lives that which we want to produce. Because everything that exists in life, the microphones that we're speaking in, the shoes that we have on our feet, the chairs that we're sitting in, the clothes that we're wearing, the homes that we live in, the cars that we drive, all of that came out of our consciousness. That all came out of the invisible into the visible. And man was a vehicle, the outlet to produce that. Wherever we have stopped in our dream, we stopped at a place called willingness. Anybody that's has fallen short of their goals, they ran into something that they were not willing to handle. Because in order to reach your dream, in order to make things happen, there must be a willingness to do what is required.
You don't have to worry about the winds that will most certainly blow around you, the obstacles, the negativity that will stand in your way. You don't have to worry about what other people will say. You just have to keep your mind on your course. Those winds may blow fast and furious, but if you know your path, if you know where you are going, they will help push you toward the dreams and goals and treasures that you have already decided you're going after. Your goals will push you forward, ahead of the stormy weather. To be a good person, you have to have ambition. You have to try to do something good with your life. You have to try to get out of where you are today or make where you are a better place tomorrow.
In life, we hear many voices. The voices of others, our voice, God's voice, and that of the enemy. With these many voices, it is very easy to get confused. In today's video, we will talk about 5 signs that God is talking to you. The question is, are you listening? But before we go ahead, please like this video, share with others who might need it, and subscribe to this channel for more content like this. In today's busy world, we get crowded with too many voices. We are unable to hear what God is saying to us. The first thing we need to know is that God is always speaking to us. We just don't listen. And some of us do want to listen, but for some reason, we just can't hear him speak. God is a God of signs. Just like he gave the rainbow as a sign that he wouldn't destroy the earth again with water, he will always show us signs. Now, before we go into the signs that indicates that God is talking to us, there's some things that we need to know about God. Number 1, God hears our prayer. Psalm 65 verses 2 says, O thou that hearest prayer, unto thee shall all flesh come. The psalmist acknowledges that we have a God who is able to hear our prayer. So don't wonder if God hears your prayers. He does. Number 2, God is always speaking to us. This point was made earlier on, but sometimes repetition is needed to drive the point home. Jesus says in Revelation chapter 3 verses 20, Look, I stand at the door and knock. If you hear my voice and open the door, I will come in. I will come in and we will share a meal together as friends. Now, this verse isn't for a specific people. Jesus didn't say he's only talking to a group of people. He said, if you hear my voice, he's talking to all of us. And God is speaking, and anyone who will hear him and invite him in will be a happy person. Number 3, God always answers prayers. John chapter 16 verses 24 says, Until now you have not asked for anything in my name. Ask and you shall receive, and your joy will be complete. You may be thinking, does God only answer some of our prayers and ignore the rest? The answer is no. God answers all our prayers. The issue is with our expectations. God might be saying yes, but what you want is a no. Because you're looking for a no, you may not hear God's voice. No matter what we think or feel, God always answers prayers. But it might not be what we want, but he surely answers prayers. Number 4, we cannot bully, force, or in whatever way make God answer our prayers the way we want him to. As we have said earlier, God always answers prayers. So there's a popular saying that goes, as long as there's a man to pray, there is a God to answer. But God is sovereign. He can choose to answer in a miraculous way. He can choose to answer otherwise. But just expect an answer, and don't think that you can force God to answer you the way you want. Number 5, we don't hear God because we don't listen. Now, many people do not know what prayer is. Prayer is not just talking to God. It is communicating with him. So this means that we ought to both talk to him and listen to him. Now, most people just pray and leave without hearing from God. Then they begin to wonder why God does not speak to them. So let's make it a point of duty to listen to God after we speak to him. Number 6, we cannot make God speak to us the way we want him to. God cannot be limited to our ideas and our desires. He is our creator, And what he wants the most is a relationship with us. God wants intimacy, and he wants us to be able to hear him every moment. But most people are looking for grand experiences. They want God to speak to them through an angel or through dreams. Imagine this. You're at a conference and you need God to quickly remind you of something you've forgotten because you're about to make a speech. Or he wants to tell you to meet someone that will help you in your career. Then you suddenly fall asleep and God shows you a dream. And by the time you wake up, what do you think people will say? Maybe you were standing and you just dropped down and the people surrounding you will call an ambulance so you can be treated. Can you see how sometimes you allow God to speak to you? Because most of the time, it doesn't make sense the way we want him to speak. So now that we've settled this, here are 5 signs to show that God is talking to you. Please don't forget to like this channel, share this video, and subscribe right now. Number 1. Through the inward witness. Quick question. Have you ever felt a knowing about something? Even when you're asked, how do you know? You sometimes can't explain it, but you're just so sure that this thing is right or wrong. And then after a while, you see you're correct. This is called the inward witness. As a true believer, the Holy Spirit resides in you, and he is the one that gives you this type of knowing. God communicates with us by his spirit to our spirit. Then our spirit will pass it to our minds. And this will then be impressed in us to form this knowing. Now, the more time you spend in God's presence learning his voice, the easier it will be for you to hear him speak. Number 2. Through dreams and visions. This is another way that God can speak to us. God can give you a dream or a vision about yourself, like he did for Joseph in Genesis chapter 37, verses 9. It says, "Then he had another dream, and he told it to his brothers. Listen," he said, "I had another dream, and this time the sun and the moon and 11 stars were bowing down to me." So God can be showing you dreams or visions, and this is a sign that he is talking to you. Number 3. Through the audible voice of God. Now, this isn't very common, but God can speak to you loud and clear. You will hear an audible voice, and you will immediately know that it's God. And just like Saul, who later became Paul in the Bible, you may hear God speaking to you. Number 4. Through other people and other means. God can also speak to you through other people. It can be your pastor, a little child, or even a signpost. God is able to speak to you however he wants, and some people became Christians by reading tracts. Some made decisions through a billboard as they were driving somewhere. Yet the most important thing is to be attentive to God speaking. Number 5. Through his word. This is the primary way that God speaks to us. God always speaks through his word, and he will never say anything that doesn't correlate with his word. So God cannot contradict himself. He cannot bring up any new thing that isn't in his word, because he already knows all things. And this should be our primary guide, so we don't get misled by the other signs that you think that God is giving to us. For example, God might be telling you through the inward witness that you should love more. Does this correlate with scriptures? Yes, it does. Or you keep hearing that you should lie against someone that hurt you. You may even dream about it and see the clear steps to take. Still, ask yourself, does this correlate with scriptures? Then if it doesn't, then whatever you heard or saw is not from God. If you enjoyed this video, please like it, share it, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thank you, and God bless you.
I am consistently trying to find my new 100%, even though life gets at you, age gets at you, sickness may get at you. I have friends of mine who lost legs, who lost arms, who lost all kind of stuff, and they call me and said, hey man, what I'm going to do now? I said, well, it's up to you to find your new norm. It's up to you to find your new 100%. No, you cannot do some of the things you used to do, but you can do today. What can you do now with that you have? And you must find your new norm, as you all your norms has a cooker jars, and sometimes you might have a Oreo, sometimes you might have a chips away, sometimes you might have a Hotman's Resigns cookies. You never know, just eat there. My cookie jar has every single failure and success of my life. Some things I overcome. So what happens in the time of life when you're stressed out and things get bad?